Imagine a love so pure that it lasts 9 years after the death of your loved one. Imagine a loyalty so deep that it becomes a legend inspiring millions of people around the world. This is not a fairy tale. This is the true story of Hachiko, an Akita dog who waited every day for almost a decade at Shibuya Station in Tokyo for the return of his master, Professor Hidesaburo Ueno. Even when death took the professor, Hachiko's heart did not stop beating to the rhythm of hope. His silhouette has become a symbol of devotion that transcends the boundaries of life and death, reminding humanity of something that we often lose in a busy world: unconditional love and fidelity. This story will change the way you look at the bond between humans and animals forever. Tokyo, 1924. The city was bustling with the life of the Taisho era, a period in which Japan rapidly modernized, combining traditional values with Western influences. Between the tall buildings and busy streets of Shibuya, a story unfolded that would forever change the way people view loyalty and devotion. Professor Hidesaburo Ueno was a respected lecturer at the Faculty of Agriculture at the University of Tokyo. A middle-aged man known for his passion for science and deep respect for all forms of life, he lived a quiet, orderly life. Every morning he boarded the train at Shibuya Station to go to work, and every afternoon he returned via the same route. It was a routine as predictable as the sunrise over Mount Fuji. In the winter of 1924, however, the professor's life was about to change. A small box arrived at his home from Akita Prefecture, a region known for breeding one of the oldest Japanese dog breeds. Inside was a small, fluffy Akita Inu puppy with golden white fur and dark, intelligent eyes. The professor named him Hachiko. Hachi meant 8, a lucky number in Japanese culture, and ko was an affectionate suffix. From the first days, an extraordinary bond developed between the professor and Hachiko. The dog turned out to be exceptionally intelligent and emotional. He quickly learned the rhythm of his master's life. Every morning, Hachiko accompanied the professor to Shibuya Station and then, with unerring precision, reappeared there around 3 in the afternoon to greet him upon his return from the university. No matter the weather, whether it was a blazing summer heat or a freezing winter storm, Hachiko was always there, in his place at the exit of the station, waiting with his tail up and his eyes shining. The people of Shibuya quickly fell in love with this beautiful dog. Salespeople from nearby stores began to recognize his figure, and children returning from school often stopped to pet him. Hachiko became part of the station's everyday landscape, a living reference point for the community. No one could have imagined then that this routine, this daily ritual of waiting, would soon transform into something much deeper, into a symbol that would last for generations and touch the hearts of people all over the world. The first years of Hachiko's life with Professor Ueno were filled with joy and harmony. The professor's house, modest but cozy, was located in a quiet district of Tokyo, surrounded by a small garden where Hachiko loved to spend time. The dog quickly became not only a pet, but a real member of the family, a companion, friend, and inseparable companion of the professor's life. Professor Ueno treated Hachiko with extreme tenderness and respect. Every day he spent time going for walks together, during which he told the dog about his work, about his students, and about the scientific problems he was wondering about. Even though Hachiko didn't understand the words, he understood his master's tone, emotions, and intentions. When the professor was tired, Hachiko would simply lie down at his feet, offering his silent presence as comfort. When the professor was happy, the dog jumped around him, sharing his joy with contagious enthusiasm. The most unusual aspect of their relationship was waiting at the station every day. For Hachiko, this wasn't a simple habit, learned through repetition. It was a deep, emotional commitment. Every day, as the clock approached 3 in the afternoon, Hachiko would get up from his favorite spot in the house and head towards Shibuya Station. Its internal clock was so precise that residents could set their watches according to it. At the station, Hachiko always occupied the same place, a small piece of the platform near the main exit from where he had a perfect view of all the passengers getting off the trains. He sat there patiently, ears turned to the tracks, listening to the familiar sound of an approaching train. Whenever he spotted the professor among the crowd, his tail would start wagging with such energy that his whole body would quiver with joy. The moment of their meeting was always full of warmth. The professor leaned down to pet his faithful companion, and Hachiko jumped on him gently, happy that his beloved master had returned home. Over time, vendors from nearby stalls began to prepare little treats for Hachiko. Mr. Tanaka, who ran the yakitori stand, always had a piece of chicken for him. Mrs. Yoshida from the flower shop called him our little station guard. The children who saw Hachiko every day on their way home from school considered him a lucky talisman. Petting Hachiko before an important test was supposed to bring good luck. This routine continued for over a year, day after day, creating an unbreakable bond between man and dog. The professor often spoke to his university colleagues about Hachiko's extraordinary loyalty. "It's not just a dog," he would say with a smile. "It's a soul that has chosen me as its companion on this journey of life." No one realized then how prophetic these words were, or how deeply this bond would soon be tested. In those golden days, Hachiko was a happy dog, living in harmony with his master. His world was simple and beautiful, a home full of love, a daily walk to the station, a joyful meeting with the professor, returning home together. It was perfection in its simplicity, the pure essence of what a relationship between a human and an animal could be. If only this moment could last forever. But fate had other plans, and Hachiko's story was yet to show its true depth. May 21st, 1925 began like any other day. The sun rose over Tokyo. The birds sang in Professor Ueno's garden, and Hachiko woke up with his usual enthusiasm, ready for another day full of the routine he loved so much. The professor prepared breakfast, patted Hachiko's head as he did every morning, and set off toward Shibuya Station. Hachiko, as usual, walked him to the station gate, watching as his master disappeared into the crowd of morning commuters. But this day was different. Professor Ueno was never supposed to return home that day. At around 3 in the afternoon, Hachiko, true to his unfailing rhythm, arrived at the station. He sat down in his usual seat, waiting for the 3:15 train. The train arrived on schedule. The passengers got off, went through the gates, and went in different directions, but there was no professor among them. Hachiko waited, observing every face, every figure. Maybe the next train. Maybe you're late. Maybe something kept him at university. The next train arrived, and next. Dusk began to fall over Tokyo, and Hachiko was still waiting. Mr. Tanaka from the yakitori stand noticed that the dog was staying longer than usual. "Where's your master, Hachiko?" he asked gently, offering him a piece of food. But Hachiko wasn't interested. His eyes remained fixed on the exit of the station, his ears taut, listening for familiar footsteps that didn't come. That same day, in a lecture hall at the University of Tokyo, Professor Ueno suffered a massive stroke. He collapsed during a lecture, surrounded by terrified students. He was immediately taken to hospital, but his condition was critical. A few hours later, while Hachiko was still waiting at the station, Professor Hidesaburo Ueno died at the age of 63. The man who was Hachiko's entire world was gone forever. The professor's family in mourning had to take care not only of the funeral, but also of Hachiko's fate. The dog was taken from the station late in the evening, confused and sad. He didn't understand why he was taken without his master. He didn't understand why the house suddenly seemed so empty and quiet. In the days following the professor's death, Hachiko became listless. He refused to eat, laying in the places where his master usually rested, sniffing at his things, looking for any trace of the scent that was dissipating. The professor's relatives, although grieving themselves, tried to take care of the dog. But their own loss was too fresh, and the responsibility for the big dog was too great. After a few weeks, the decision was made to give Hachiko back. He went first to one house, then to another. People were good and tried to take care of him, but Hachiko couldn't adapt. There was no rebellion or aggression in him, only a deep, unimaginable longing. And then something extraordinary happened. One afternoon, Hachiko ran away from the house where he was staying. Instinct led him through the streets of Tokyo, through the districts he remembered from his daily walks with the professor, and he found himself where his heart always wanted to be, at Shibuya Station, in his old place, waiting. People who recognized him were surprised and moved. "Hachiko is back," they whispered to each other. "He's still waiting for the professor." From that day forward, Hachiko made Shibuya Station her home. Regardless of the weather, regardless of the season, he appeared in the same place every day at 3 in the afternoon. His eyes scanned every face, every figure emerging from the train. He waited with a hope that never faded, with a fidelity that knew no limits. The people of Shibuya who knew the history began to care for him. They brought him food, water, and built a small shelter to protect him from the rain. But nothing could fill the void in Hachiko's heart. The only thing he wanted was to be reunited with the man who would never come back. As the years passed, Hachiko's devotion never wavered. Every day, regardless of weather conditions, the dog showed up at Shibuya Station at exactly the same time. The summer heat made his tongue hang in exhaustion. The winter snowstorms covered his fur in a white shroud, but nothing could stop him from his daily ritual of waiting. For Hachiko, time stopped on May 21st, 1925. Each day was simply a continuation of the same expectation, the same hope. The community around Shibuya Station gradually began to notice something unusual about this persistence. It wasn't stupidity or stubbornness of an animal. It was pure, undiluted love and loyalty. Mr. Tanaka, who had been running his stand all these years, continued to feed Hachiko. "It's part of this place," he told customers. "He is the heart of Shibuya." Other stores also contributed to the dog's care. An informal network of people was formed who felt it was their duty to make sure Hachiko was fed and safe. In 1932, 7 years after Professor Ueno's death, something extraordinary happened. Hirokichi Saito, a former student of Professor Ueno and an expert on the Akita breed, heard about the dog that was still waiting at the station. Intrigued, he came to Shibuya to see Hachiko for himself. What he saw moved him deeply. In front of him stood an old dog, with fur that had lost its former shine, with eyes that showed longing but also undiminished determination. Saito was moved to tears. As an Akita expert and former student of the professor, Saito understood the depth of this bond. He decided to do something significant. He wrote an article about Hachiko, which was published in one of the largest newspapers in Tokyo. The article was titled, "A Faithful Dog Awaits His Master's Return for 7 Years." Hachiko's story exploded into the public consciousness. People from all over Japan began to come to Shibuya to see this unusual dog with their own eyes. The media picked up on the story, and the story spread like wildfire. Hachiko became a national symbol. In Japanese culture, where values such as loyalty, devotion, and perseverance are deeply rooted, Hachiko's story resonated with something fundamental in the soul of the nation. He was a living embodiment of chugi, absolute loyalty to one's master, a value that has been central to the samurai code and Japanese ethics for centuries. People began to see Hachiko not just as a dog, but as a teacher, a reminder of what it truly means to be faithful. During this newfound fame, Hachiko's life changed little. He still came every day at 3, still waiting in the same place, but now he was never alone. People came to honor him, brought gifts, and stroked him with respect. The children learned at school about Hachiko as an example of loyalty. Artists painted his portrait. Poets wrote poems about him. It has become part of the Japanese national identity. In 1934, in recognition of his extraordinary loyalty, a bronze statue of Hachiko was unveiled at Shibuya Station. The ceremony was a great event, attended by crowds of people. Hachiko himself was present at the unveiling of his monument, one of the most moving scenes in Tokyo's history. An old, tired dog sat calmly, watched by hundreds of people who had come to honor his indomitable spirit. The statue showed Hachiko in a waiting position, exactly as he had spent every day for the past 9 years. But even fame and recognition did not change the most important thing in Hachiko's life. Every day after the crowds had dispersed, he still sat there, still waiting. His eyes, although tired with age, still scanned the faces of the passengers. His heart, although weakened by years of longing, still beat to the rhythm of hope. For Hachiko there was no fame, no monuments. There was only one man who never came, and one love that never faded. On March 8, 1935, almost 10 years after Professor Ueno's death, Hachiko was found dead in an alley near Shibuya Station. He was 11 years old, the age at which many Akita dogs end their lives. His heart, which had been beating in anticipation for so long, finally stopped. A post-mortem examination revealed that he died of cancer and filariasis, but those who knew his story knew that he died of a broken heart. A heart that never stopped waiting, never stopped loving. The news of Hachiko's death shocked Japan. The day of his death was declared a day of national mourning. His funeral was a ceremony worthy of a national hero. Thousands of people came to pay tribute to the faithful dog, which became a symbol of what is best in nature: unconditional love and steadfast fidelity. Hachiko's body was cremated, and his ashes were divided. Some were buried next to Professor Ueno's grave in the Aoyama Cemetery in Tokyo, so that they could finally be together, as they should have always been. The remainder was preserved at the National Science Museum in Tokyo, where Hachiko's stuffed body is on display to this day, allowing future generations to look into the eyes of the legend. The Hachiko Monument at Shibuya Station has become one of the most famous meeting places in Tokyo. Every day, thousands of people pass by this bronze figure, some stopping to touch it reverently, others taking photos, and still others simply standing in silence, contemplating the extraordinary history it represents. This place, known as Hachiko Mai, before Hachiko, has become not only a landmark, but a sacred place of devotion and loyalty. Hachiko's story crossed the borders of Japan. It spread all over the world, becoming a universal symbol of fidelity. Films have been made about him, books have been written, and songs have been composed. His story touches on something deep in the human psyche: the desire for love that knows no end, loyalty that survives even death. What makes Hachiko's story so moving? This is not just a story about a dog who waited. It is a reminder of the purity of emotion that animals are capable of expressing. Love without condition, waiting without demanding anything in return. In a world that often seems cold and calculated, where relationships can be superficial and ephemeral, Hachiko shows us something eternal and true. It reminds us that the greatest gift in life is not what we receive, but what we are willing to give to others: our presence, our faithfulness, our steadfast heart. Today, almost 100 years after Hachiko's death, his spirit still lives on. At Shibuya Station, his statue reminds us that true love never dies, and loyalty is a virtue that transcends time and circumstances. Everyone who stands in front of this monument feels something deep: the awareness that in the heart of this dog beat the essence of what it means to truly love. Hachiko waited not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He waited because for him, there was no other place he wanted to be. And in this simple, beautiful act of faithfulness, he gave the world a lesson that we will never forget. Love is eternal, and devotion knows no limits.